long time. Oh, it's haunted.
Where's my lovely wife assistant? Okay. 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 This is our first stop. This is the Schumacher building, built by Peter Antonius Schumacher, born May 21st, 1843 in Germany. He died August 22, 1933, at the age of 90. He died right up there. He's buried at Loma Vista Memorial Park, if any of you are Fullerton files. He built this building early on in 1905. This is actually Fullerton's first brick retail building. And and also he was a little ahead of his time, whereas Schumacher buildings, and there's several, you know, the comic book hideout, Vina Nostra, those are also Schumacher buildings where they have retail on the bottom but living spaces on the top. So he was doing that back in 1905. Mr. Schumacher was a farmer from Illinois. He moved from Germany to Illinois. He served as a Union soldier in the Civil War. He fought with Sherman. He fought with Grant. He couldn't get along with anyone, but he did. He did move out here to Fullerton, and his son Roy Fullerton Schumacher was the first child born in Fullerton, and so the Schumer used his experience as a farmer to exploit Fullerton's agricultural riches in oil, walnuts, and real estate, and so. He was a real fervent supporter of downtown. Do we have a picture of Mr. Schumacher?
Yes, we do.
There he is. Very handsome.
Peter Schumacher?
Handsome
Yes,
man.
he does.
He was a visionary. He saw Fullerton as a potential for a major economic center, which turns out to be. But he, well, like I say, he was a visionary because when he built this building, Harbor Boulevard. Oh, by the way, Harbor Boulevard. Who knows what Harbor Boulevard used to be called? Yes, Spadra. And that was named after the Spadra stage lines that started up near Pomona. There was a little town named Spadra up there, and the stage line came down Spadra, and when it was wet, it was just a ton of mud out there. When it was dry on Sundays, right here used to be the Hotel St. George. Beautiful hotel, and they used to have horse races on the up and down Spadra on Sunday on Sundays. So I would say Peter Schumacher was a very handsome man, but due to poor health, he committed suicide. So what happened is, when his wife was out, he hung himself from the ceiling in his apartment. That one up there, 212A, is it? 212B, yes. And that's where his wife found him. And we have a picture, and if you think he looked good in the picture, look at him in his casket. This is a post-mortem photograph that were all the rage during the early part of the century. And look, I mean, he looks pretty good for being 70 years old.
Yeah, he's up well.
Yeah. So, Mr. Schumacher, there have been several recordings of his presence here. There was this one fellow we met on the tour here. He says, "Yeah, I used to live up there." He says, "Man, things go bang in the night, and we were drinking and smoking and carrying on like the young kids do." And he says, "Man, Peter Schumacher drove us out of there." But back in the day, before this was a salon, this was Roy's Photos, and it was a place where, you used to take pictures and put it on film. You used to take film in and get the film developed. Wow, it was a hassle. But that's what Roy Photos did. And Dave Politti was the manager here from 1971 to the early 1990s. And if you've ever developed film, you know that you had to have a dark room. And in a dark room, you have to know where your tools are. Well, he'd reach for something that wouldn't be there, and he figured, hey, somebody's messing with me. But he'd always catch out of the corner of his eye, he'd catch a figure in a long coat and he had a big mustache. And when he was also Dave Politti was the first president of the Downtown Fullerton Businessman's Association. Sorry, it should have been business persons, but it wasn't. Okay. Anyway, he was tearing down. He was remodeling up there to make some meeting rooms, and he tore down some drywall down from the wall, and there, right in front of him, was Mr. Schumacher. And we know that because when Dave Politti was interviewed by Amy All, she showed him this picture, and he goes, "Yeah, that's him." So we know that was him. So, but when he did see Peter Schumacher the last time, Peter Schumacher had his arms folded and gave him a nod because he wasn't tearing down the building. He was advancing business here in Fullerton, and Peter Schumacher liked that. One of the last things that happened to Dave Politti was he was at the end of the day, and this woman walked in, and she was sort of dressed in Victorian clothes, and she asked if he could make a photograph of her. And he goes, I says, well, I don't take pictures here, I develop film. And she goes, okay. And she walked out. She walked out here where it was the parking lot. And he goes, man, I should, maybe I could take a picture. And he ran out, and she had just vanished. And we're thinking that could have been Peter's wife, Julia, who had found him in the first place. Ooh. So anyway, let's head on. And we're just going to say a few. 23, commissioned by Charles C. Chapman, Fullerton's first mayor and prominent businessman. Mr. Chapman was old school when he built the building. He didn't want to use those newfangled steam shovel machines that were all the rage back then. He hired 50 men and 20 teams of horses to excavate the foundation. And again, with Spadra being a dirt road, when it rained, it took a team of 4 horses to get a wagon load of building materials up the road. But this was, the original cost of construction was $300,000. Fun fact, there are 303,600 bricks in the entire building. You may be asked that someday. But then this was Orange County's very first skyscraper. And it was Orange County's tallest building for 2 weeks, because Stanley Kramer, of Anaheim and Placentia, he had the same building being built at the same time. Although this is 5 stories tall, Mr. Kramer's building, the Kramer building, is 6 stories tall. And ironically, after Anaheim tore down its entire downtown, they were going to build canals and make it into like a San Antonio Riverwalk with gondolas and stuff. And after they tore the entire city down, they got cold feet. And so it is what it is today, which is nice. But ironically, the Kramer building is still standing down there. Oh, and we mentioned Charles Chapman. He gained all his wealth from promoting the Valencia orange. And Valencia oranges, they have thicker skins, and you could ship them to, back in the day, you'd ship them to your relatives in Detroit, so they could enjoy fresh California oranges. you know, in the middle of the winter. And he's the distant relative of another fellow named Chapman from the Massachusetts area, John Chapman, who became famous for distributing apples throughout the eastern seaboard and the Midwest. Any idea who John Chapman was? How about Johnny Appleseed? They are really, and they're both related, and the cool part in here in Fullerton is the only place in the world where you can compare apples to oranges. And so, yes, there it is.
That was a joke.
Okay, that was a joke. Okay, come on. Okay.